All right, here we go. Welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. hanging out here with you. And as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. Hope you're all having a great week. It is Tuesday, February 3rd, and we have another loaded show coming your way. You might be watching this show saying to yourself and asking yourselves, Chase, where are you? We're coming to you from the Moscone Center, downtown San Francisco, for our coverage of Super Bowl 60 here at Chat Sports. Going to be doing shows from Super Bowl Radio Row all throughout the week, so be on the lookout for that fantastic content, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily and year-round coverage of the Niners. Coming up here on this edition of the show, the 49ers electrical substation theory takes center stage here at the Super Bowl. Owner Jed York addressed it today. Christian McCaffrey also weighed in. I did an interview with Patriots wide receiver Mack Hollins on this. Thought he was a good person to talk to this about because he's into health and wellness and has a holistic approach to how he approaches his life. Some Niners-related Super Bowl content also coming your way on today's show. You'll hear from Patriots left tackle Will Campbell on Trent Williams and his greatness throughout the course of NFL history. Jaxson Smith Njigba talked about former Niners pass game coordinator and current Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, who is set to get that Raiders head coaching job, taking over for Pete Carroll. And I had to save Cooper Kupp from sounding like a fool. All of that is coming your way. And let me just make sure I don't forget about that Cooper Kupp clip, because we have to play that on this show as well. All right, let's begin here. So Jed York, right on this stage behind me, right on this set behind me, was on with Kay Adams on her show. And he brought up unprompted the 49ers electrical substation theory. Wasn't even asked about it, I don't believe, by Kay Adams, because Jed York starts to talk about it, and Kay Adams is like, oh, really? We're going there? And a great job by her to ask some really good questions on this topic and ask some good follow-ups. And then a little bit later on, she had on 49ers linebacker Fred Warner, and she asked Fred Warner about this theory as well. And Jed York doesn't seem to be a believer that this could be leading to a lot of the Niners' injury problems going all the way back to 2013. He said, we'll look into it, echoing what John Lynch said a couple of weeks ago during his end-of-the-season press conference. And then he added, we've been there since 1987 next to the substation. Jerry Rice seemed to be pretty healthy during his career. I think that we can debunk it. My reaction to what Jed York said there is this. Jed York owns the 49ers. That franchise, thanks to having won 5 Super Bowls, is worth nearly $9 billion. York bragged today on with Kay Adams that hosting the Super Bowl and hosting the World Cup in the same year at Levi's Stadium will bring in and generate another $1 billion. But his employees, the players on this 49ers team, have voiced concerns, continue to voice concerns about this issue, the dangers of EMF. They want research and studies done to see if it's impacting them at least a little bit. McCaffrey even said, look, our body is pretty much our livelihood. And even if it is impacting us 0.1%, we want to figure out that 0.1% because it matters. You also think about the shelf life for a professional football player. They don't get to play football for that long. And so why I've continued to talk about this is because I've known that players have talked about this in the Niners locker room. I've known that players have voiced concerns and worries about this potential theory. And that's why I put up that tweet that absolutely went nuclear back in October, which was this first viral post on the Niners electrical substation theory. And so elsewhere with what Jed York said, right? He shoots down the electrical substation theory, saying Jerry Rice stayed healthy throughout his Niners career. That's the GOAT at the wide receiver position. Maybe the greatest player in the history of the Niners organization. One of one. And for most of his career, yes, he stayed healthy. And he was a durable player. But Jerry Rice also tore his ACL and his MCL, I believe, when he was playing with the 49ers. Jed also said the Niners have been practicing next to the substation since 1987. But he didn't acknowledge that the substation expanded when Levi's Stadium was built, which coincides with the uptick of the Niners' injury issues as a team. Jed York also didn't acknowledge the $20 million proposal to have the substation removed before Levi's Stadium was built, which was billed to his family before the stadium opened. These injuries, and this is why this makes no sense to me, have cost Jed York's multi-billion-dollar business a lot of money, potentially millions. And he said, on with Kay Adams, right behind me, that the Niners must and need to figure out these injury problems. Because when they've been healthy, they've been successful. When they've been hurt, they've been successful. But in a year like this, it really capped what they are capable of doing as a football team. So Jed York acknowledges the seriousness behind the Niners' injury history, right? But he doesn't seem willing to move the practice field because it will cost him money. Why that doesn't make sense to me is because these injuries are costing him a lot of money. But his organization's worth nearly $9 billion, another billion for the Super Bowl coming to Levi's Stadium. And wouldn't you want to figure out these injury problems so that these injury woes don't continue to further damage and cost you money as a football team? At the very least, move the practice field for a year or two to see if this negatively impacts the health of the San Francisco 49ers. And at least see, do your own research. Try to figure out yourselves as an organization if that could be beneficial, if that could be effective, if that could work. And yes, you're going to have to pay a little bit of money to move the practice field or to relocate somewhere else in the immediacy in order to get these practice sessions in. You're also against time here. You have to get this figured out probably before the start of NFL free agency in March, because players have voiced concerns with their agents about this particular topic. And even if you have to move the practice field and it costs you money, what if you end up being a healthier football team? That benefits you more so from a fiscal financial perspective, and you would gain more in doing that as compared to losing money with the persistent injury issues. Now, Christian McCaffrey also weighed in on this, and he said this to the San Francisco Chronicle, Noah Furtado, with this article. He said this during the Pro Bowl games. When it comes to EMFs and 5G and phones and blue light and Wi-Fi, it's not nothing. And I agree. The issue with this is that all of this data, all of this research is very new. So we can do studies, we can do research, but it's hard to get a long sample size as far as data to determine whether or not this is a thing or not. But what I would do if I was running the Niners, exhaust all avenues and try to figure out how to get this team healthy and figure out why this team has been so injured. Now, I think it's a multitude of things. I think it's the head of athletic training, the strength and conditioning coach, how the Niners train, how they practice, how they recover, how they stretch before practices and games. I think all those things play a role into this. Their style of play is also a downhill and physical football team too. So all of that, I think, plays into this. But we're at a point here where these injury issues have persisted since 2013. It's not just bad luck at this point. And when your own players, your employees, are voicing concerns about this, if I was the owner, I make such large investments in those athletes and in those players, paying them millions and millions of dollars. If I have to move the practice field, that's fine, because at the end of the day, if that can help to solve these injury problems, I'm a huge winner at the end of the day. We win, we stay healthy, and I'll make that money back in no time. Plus, the Niners are a cash cow, and if Jed York can invest millions into a soccer team overseas in Europe, how about he invests in this football team, the San Francisco 49ers, as they try to get that quest for 6. I asked Patriots wide receiver Mack Hollins about this. Now, I will say, Mack Hollins is what some people would call a crunchy dude. He is trying to build his own farm right now. He walks barefoot all the time, but he believes in things that I believe, what Christian McCaffrey believes in: grounding, meditation, getting sunlight. And he approaches his life in a very homeopathic, holistic way. Now, Mack Hollins drinks raw milk. I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm drinking raw milk, but I do care about health and wellness because my mom passed away very suddenly and surprisingly of cancer back in 2018, and that's changed my whole scope and perspective on things when it comes to health-related issues. And so I asked Mack Hollins about this, probably the best player that you could ask about this Niners electrical substation theory during opening night, during Super Bowl week last night. Here's what he had to say.
You're probably the best person to ask about this because you're into health and wellness, but what do you think about the Niners electrical substation theory and the dangers of EMF?
Oh, look, we were talking about the flat earth. This is a couple stages above that. I don't know, I feel like there's been a lot of studies, if you just do on plants, where you put a EMF next to a plant, it doesn't grow as well as a plant without it. Now, I'm not a scientist though, so I don't want to say it's this or that. But there has to be some correlation. I don't know if that you can say, oh, well, ACLs are tearing and stuff because of that. But if they have significantly higher, I don't know if they do or not, if they have significantly higher injuries than other places, then there has to be something, whether it's that or the AMF stuff or something else. They're still got to get to the bottom of what it is, because if there's some sort of difference between them and every other team, then there must be a cause for it. If it's EMF, I mean, that's going to be tough on all the headphone companies. They're going to be sick to their stomach. I'm a wired headphone guy, so.
If you were a player on the team, would you want the team to investigate it and look into it?
Yeah, for sure. I'm on the team. I want them to do all types of stuff. I want the cafeteria to be all organic and stuff, grass-fed beef. I want the field to be all grass, but you got to start at something. If that's the thing, then yeah, hey, go for it. But there's a long list of things that need to get done.
Now, of course, with some of that, when he's talking about the flat earth, he was being sarcastic, because before I asked him those questions, he's talking about these conspiracy theories, and he did admit, I'll go into the rabbit hole and I'll do research and I'll look into some of these conspiracy theories. Some, I think, have some reasons for why they could be conspiracy theories, why there could be some truth behind it. Others, I don't really pay him any mind. And he did say, I'm not a flat earth guy. I don't believe that is one of the theories that is true. All right, elsewhere here on the show, Patriots rookie left tackle Will Campbell is somebody who we talked about in the pre-draft process for the Niners going into the 2025 draft. Really good player coming out of LSU. Shorter arms, so a lot of NFL evaluators didn't know, is he a guard? Is he a tackle? The Patriots drafted him very high in the first round to play left tackle. Throughout his rookie campaign, he's been pretty damn good. Really good college player at LSU. He's had some rookie moments, right, where he's gotten beaten by some of the top pass rushers in the game, but I do think that over the long haul, he has a very bright future in the National Football League. And he was asked who his favorite left tackles in the NFL are, and he started listing off a couple of names. And his list included Laramie Tunsil, Andrew Thomas, Tristan Wirfs. But then he said it's unfair to name Trent Williams because nobody can compare to who he is as a player. Here's that clip from Will Campbell.
I love the way a lot of guys play. I mean, there's some extremely good offensive line play in the league right now. I'll probably say my three favorite, just say left tackles. I like Tristan Wirfs, Laramie Tunsil. And you can't say Trent Williams because no one else can do what he does. So can't say him. I like Andrew Thomas too. Andrew Thomas is a really good player. So I guess they probably those three.
And one thing I've noticed being at the Super Bowl for now 4 straight years, going to places like the NFL Combine, being around people who cover the NFL, having some sources across the league, talking to players, following this league very closely ever since I was a kid. I've been wanting to talk about the NFL professionally since I was 5 years old. That is how people talk about great players who are of GOAT status. And Trent Williams is of GOAT status. Speaking of GOATs, I said it earlier, Jerry Rice, the GOAT at the wide receiver position. So impressive what he did in his NFL career. So impressive to be considered the GOAT, because you think back throughout the course of NFL history, how many great wide receivers have played this game. To be the best at a very stacked and loaded position, that's very impressive. And I don't think there's any debating that Jerry Rice is the greatest wide receiver of all time. But Cooper Kupp, formerly of the Rams, now at the Seahawks, trying to win a second Super Bowl championship, won one with the Rams in 2021, looking to win one with Seattle here in 2025, was asked who his top 5 wide receivers are. And he listed a couple of names, but then he was struggling with that 5th. So I had to chime in, I had to save him, and I had to say Jerry Rice, and he obliged.
Receivers, okay. Well, you go you go Randy Moss, you go Megatron. I'll go with Steve Largent running the slot for me. I need one more good, like, you know what, I really like Andre Johnson. He's gonna bring a little bit of that juice with him. And then let's do one more.
Jerry Rice.
See this? Yeah, I guess I'll go Jerry. Jerry will be the veteran presence that we need.
More Seahawks storylines here. So their offensive coordinator is Clint Kubiak. Last year, he was the OC for the New Orleans Saints. I thought the Saints offense did some decent things last year, especially early in the year when Derek Carr was healthy. Derek Carr got hurt, and they were just running through quarterbacks, and that team was just awful. And Dennis Allen was a lame duck as the head coach. He got fired. Darren Rizzi had to step in. And so Kellen Moore comes in, former offensive coordinator for the Eagles, coming off that Super Bowl championship. Kellen Moore got that job to be the Saints head coach because of his scheme, because of his play calling history. So he didn't retain Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak became the Seahawks' #1 target at offensive coordinator. And Mike McDonald talked about that today, that he was their first interview. He was the top guy that they wanted to go after. And Kubiak has done an incredible job this year, whether it be the way that Sam Darnold has been playing this season or how balanced that offense is from a passing and running standpoint, to Jaxson Smith Njigba having a career year and leading the league in receiving yards, emerging as one of the top wide receivers in the sport. Clint Kubiak used to be the Niners pass game coordinator in 2023. So he's learned under Kyle Shanahan. His dad, Gary, learned under Mike Shanahan. Gary was a good NFL head coach for a really long time. And so Kubiak has a long history of being around some really great coaches and offensive minds throughout his coaching career and throughout his upbringing. And that's kind of come full circle for him. He's set to be the Las Vegas Raiders head coach after Super Bowl 60. It can't be official, so right now nobody has named him officially the head coach of the Raiders, but him and Tom Brady really hit it off over the weekend, and that was the big news, that he is set to become the next Raiders head coach. From a play calling standpoint, what he's done with play designs, I think that Seahawks offense has been beautiful. Like Kyle Shanahan, he prefers to have a balanced offense. We've seen that this year. Kenneth Walker, I think, has been one of the more underrated running backs in the NFL. That offensive line has played really well. So I asked JSN what stands out to him about Clint Kubiak as an offensive mind, and here's what JSN had to say.
You played under Clint Kubiak for 1 year, and you popped off and had a career season, led the NFL in receiving yards. What has kind of stood out to you about how he runs the offense and him as an offensive mind?
Yeah, I think this offense, historically has had a lot of success, throughout the years. And I think, Clint does a great job just understanding players and putting them in the right position to succeed and making things look the same, the run game and the pass game. That's something that you need to have, if you want to win games. And, I think he just has an amazing understanding of the game.
From the offensive side of the football to the defensive side of the football, Kyle Shanahan against Mike McDonald. This is a really good rivalry. Kyle Shanahan, the offensive wizard. Mike McDonald, the defensive wizard. Kyle Shanahan got Mike McDonald in week 1 on the road for the Niners. Then in week 18, Seattle's defense dominated San Francisco in the divisional round. Seahawks defense throttled the Niners offense once again. In those final 2 games, 8 quarters of play, the Niners did not score a single touchdown. They got into the red zone once. And then one time that they got into the red zone, Christian McCaffrey fumbled. So I wanted to ask Leslie Frazier about Kyle Shanahan versus Mike McDonald. And if I said McDaniel earlier, obviously I meant McDonald. Not a lot of sleep, a lot of work here for our coverage of the Super Bowl. Leslie Frazier has been an NFL coach since the late 90s. He got his start under Andy Reid in Philadelphia under the legendary defensive coordinator Jim Johnson, and he's been around great defensive players, great defensive schemes, great defensive units. He won a Super Bowl and led the Bears in interceptions during that 1985 Chicago Bears season when they won the Super Bowl and had arguably the greatest defense of all time. So I wanted to ask Leslie Frazier, why does Mike McDonald's defense work against Kyle Shanahan? Why has he had his number? And I thought what he referenced here, what he explained, was very fascinating.
You've been around this league for such a long time, and You've really been around so many defenses as well. What makes Mike McDonald, and what leads to his defense being so good?
Well, obviously, when you look at the way our guys have played here, and then you look at his defenses in Baltimore, there's some similarities. I mean, it's a smart, tough, athletic group. He's translated that from Baltimore to Seattle. You see remnants of himself in our defense. I mean, guys that are really smart, that really play hard. But his ability to be able to have a feel for the way the game is going and to be able to make the right call at the right time, that's unique. And he does a great job of studying and preparing, but he has an innate ability to be able to recognize the direction that the game is going to make the right call in the right moment. And that's a unique talent, but it goes back to his preparation.
Last 2 games against Kyle Shanahan, Niners didn't score a touchdown. Why do you think he's successful against Kyle of late?
I don't want to put it just with Kyle. I mean, there have been so many other teams that we've played really well as a defense against. There's just some teams you match up with better than others, and there have been some teams, the Rams, for instance, that really make it hard for us. So it's more about the opponent and how we match up than it is Kyle Shanahan or some other head coach or play caller. It's more about the team in itself.
There certainly can be some truth to that. I think the Niners being undermanned certainly hurt them in Week 18 and in the divisional round. But a commenter brought this up as well. What happened when the Niners had the best offense in the NFL in 2023 and Kyle Shanahan went up against Mike McDonald when he was the DC for the Baltimore Ravens and Brock Purdy turned it over, 4 times in that first half? And the Niners offense then struggled against Mike McDonald's defense then. Interesting. I'm telling you right now, this rivalry is not going anywhere. And if you love X's and O's, you love play caller versus play caller, you love a great offense against a great defense, you're going to enjoy Niners Seahawks for the foreseeable future. All right, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll be providing coverage from Super Bowl 60 all throughout the week right here in San Francisco. This is the 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Thanks for tuning in.